Okay, everyone. So let's go ahead and go through with how to do a matching question. And we're looking at reading passage one. This is from the Cambridge book number 8, which again is one of the books that I teach from when I teach my classes. And it's one of the books that I'm using to teach this online class to you. I encourage you to go out and get the book because you can't get the book from this course. You have to go out and get the book on your own. And I encourage you to go get it because it's very good. They are the best books to use, so that's what I recommend. All right. All right. So we're doing a matching question. As I told you earlier, with a matching question, what you have to do with a matching question is you have to look at the words in a box and then pick which one of the questions matches the language that's found for that word in the box. So it's a very easy question to understand in terms of strategy. The biggest challenge is you have to read this sentence in the passage and then find the parallel synonym match to one of the questions. So that's the real challenge. But it's the same two things over and over and over again. Finding and locating the sentence, understanding it, pick the synonym match. Okay? That's the same thing that they're testing over and over and over again. And that's what you have to be aware of when it comes to doing IELTS reading comprehension. Okay, so now if you notice with this set of questions, this is interesting. I'm going to go off on a little sidebar. You see the first set of questions here is a paragraph location question. It says which paragraph contains the following information, like 1, 2, 3, 4. So this question appears first. It's before the matching question. But when I'm doing this, like I've told you, you don't do the paragraph location question first. Okay, because it doesn't go in order, and if you try to do it first, you're going to end up reading the whole reading passage and wasting all your time. Okay, so we wouldn't do the paragraph location question first. All right, what we would do is we would look at numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 and circle the key words in each one, like timekeeping and cold temperatures, explanation of the importance of geography and a calendar, and farming. Pendulum clock, really good, and simultaneous efforts to calculate time and uniform hours. So I would circle those keywords for the paragraph location question, and then I would leave it. Don't do it right now. Leave it. Okay? And then you want to do your matching question. Here's our matching question right here. And we also have a diagram question. So if you had a passage like this that had this set of questions, paragraph location, matching, and diagram, do your matching question, do your diagram question. As you're doing your matching and your diagram question, look out for those keywords from the questions for the paragraph location, because then it's going to make it much easier to come back and do that question. Much easier to come back and do that question. All right, because we went ahead and we circled our keywords for each one, and then we know what to look out for. Okay, so let's go ahead and move to our matching question, and here we go. We have 4 questions, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we have 6 names in the box. Okay, so that means 2 of the names don't belong. Okay, 2 of the names don't belong. All right, now for this one, it doesn't tell us that we can use a name more than once. It doesn't say. It doesn't. If you could use a name more than once, it will tell you. Okay, that's the answer to that question. So, if you could use Babylonians twice, if you could use a twice, you would see in the instructions up here. It would say, you may use a letter more than once. It would say it. Okay. So because it doesn't say that, okay, the rule is you can't use a name more than once. All right, understand? For you to use a letter more than once, it has to explicitly say you have permission and the ability to do so. All right? That's what that means, and that's how we have to interpret that. Okay? All right, so all right, so we have our names here: Babylonians, Egyptians. So what we have to do, go find Babylonians, read the sentence where we see Babylonians, and then see if the information in the sentence where we see Babylonians is a match for 5, 6, 7, or 8. And the good thing is these words in the box are going to be easy to find. Proper nouns, easy to find. Okay, here's Babylonians right here. And actually, as I'm scanning down, we see Egyptians right here. Okay? All right, so here's Babylonians right here. So let's read this sentence. Do a quick check to see if I see we have Egyptians twice. There's Greeks, there's Romans. There's Germany. There's French, France. There's England. All right, so I see all the names. I don't see Babylonians again, so I know it's going to be this sentence right here. All right, so it says, I'm starting right here in paragraph A. All right, according to the archaeological evidence, at least 5,000 years ago, and long before the advent of the Roman Empire, the Babylonians began to measure time, introducing calendars to coordinate communal activities, to plan the shipment of goods, and in particular to regulate planting and harvesting. All right, so it says the Babylonians, right here, the Babylonians began to measure time, introducing calendars to coordinate communal activities. So they introduced calendars to coordinate activities, to plan the shipment of goods, and in particular to regulate planting and harvesting. All right, so let's look and see if that's a match for anything. They devised a calendar where the months were equal. We saw nothing about being equal. Divide the day into 2 equal halves. Nope. They developed a new cabinet shape for a timekeeper. Nope. They created a calendar to organize public events and work schedules. Okay, that's a match. Okay, that's a match. To coordinate communal activities, that's synonym for organizing public events. And then when it talked about regulating planting and harvesting, that's the same thing as having a calendar for work schedules. So number 8, for number 8, we know that the answer is A. So on our answer sheet, we would put A as our answer for number 8. All right. So now let's go and look and see what it says for Egyptians. All right, here's Egyptians right here. All right, so the Egyptians had formulated, here in paragraph C, first sentence. Paragraph C, first sentence. The Egyptians had formulated a municipal calendar having 12 months of 30 days, with 5 days added to the approximate solar year. So they had 12 months of 30 days. Now, if we look at the other sentence with the Egyptians, it says the cosmic significance the Egyptians placed in the 12 deacons led them to develop a system in which each interval of darkness was divided into a dozen equal parts. All right, so 12 months, 30 days. So they divided it into equal parts. And we can see that that is a match for, because we saw it earlier, they devised a civil calendar in which the months were equal in length. All right, so for number 5 on our answer sheet, we would put A. For number 5, for our answer sheet, we would put B for Egyptians. All right, now keep in mind, for reading comprehension, you have to put your answers on the answer sheet right away. Okay? You have to put your answers on the answer sheet right away, because at the end of reading, it's over. It's not like listening where they give you time. They give you time afterwards to be able to mark your answers. Okay? So mark your answers right away. All right, let's look at for Greeks. We already saw all the ones. Let's see. Temporal hours, which were, here's Greeks right here, everyone. Right here. Here's Greeks. Temporal hours, which were first adopted by the Greeks and then the Romans, who disseminated them through Europe, remained in use for more than 2,500 years. Temporal hours, which were first adopted by the Greeks. Okay, I don't see that as a match for anything. 2 equal halves, no. New cabinet shape, no. 5 and 8 are already gone. So Greeks is not a match for number 6 or number 7. For the Germans, it says Italian hours begin at sunset, Babylonian hours at sunrise, astronomical hours at midday, and great clock hours used for some large public clocks in Germany at midnight. No match for anything. Eventually these were superseded by small clock or French hours, which split the day into 2 12-hour periods. All right, so the French split the day into 2 12-hour periods. I think that's a match. Yeah, that's a match for number 6. They divide the day into 2 equal halves. So Germany doesn't match anything, but the French, the correct answer for number 7 is F. I'm sorry, the correct answer for number 6 is F. And then number 7, we know it's going to be English because we've seen everybody else. Develop a new cabinet shape. And right here we see England. So we're talking about the English. All right. The earliest recorded weight-driven mechanical clock was built in 1283. The revolutionary aspect of this new timekeeper was neither the descending weight that provided the motor for force nor the gear wheels. So it's talking about building a clock with the English. So we know that the correct match for number 7 is English, which is D. All right. So now, a couple of things that I'll mention right now. Even though we finished the matching question, we can see for the paragraph location question, we can actually see some of the answers right now. We know, because this question is asking which paragraph do you see this information. So by doing the matching question first, we can see that for number 3 with the pendulum and clock, we just read that. All right, the pendulum clock, that was mentioned right here in paragraph G. Pendulum clock, pendulum clock is right here. Okay, about the pendulum clock. Also, by doing the matching question, we actually know the answer to also number 4. Because number 4 says simultaneous efforts of different societies to calculate time using uniform hours. We know that that is from paragraph E, where it talked about the Babylonian hours, the German hours, and then the French splitting the day into 2 12-hour periods. So uniform hours, right? 24 equal parts. So we know that that information comes from paragraph E. So by doing the matching question first, and then doing the paragraph location questions after, you can actually get a really good idea for maybe where one or two of them, where this information is located. And that's why I say don't do it first. All right, so that's just a little bit of a tidbit or advice for you in terms of handling that paragraph location question. Okay? All right, so if you're doing the whole course, the next thing we're going to be addressing after this is the paragraph location question, and we're going to be coming back to this actual reading passage to do it. So it should be able to make a lot more sense to you then also. So talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Okay, everyone, so here we go. We're looking at another matching question. This is our second example of the matching question. Okay, so I hope that you're getting a really good idea from working with us on the proper strategy methods and tactics for doing the reading comprehension for the IELTS. A lot of students really aren't clear about how to do the different questions, and so I'm hoping that these lessons and the strategy and how to do it is something that can be really, really helpful to you. Okay? All right, so and as you know, with our basic strategy, we have to look at the words in the box and then quickly go to the passage, and we can circle where we see each word. Some might appear more than once. The second thing you can do is to look at the possible answer choices and underline keywords, which might help you to be able to choose an answer much faster. I think it's very important in terms of step 3 to do your names or nouns that appear once in the passage first, because they'll be faster to answer. And the key thing you have to do is read the sentence where you see the word in the box. Read the sentence where you see the word in the box, and then pick which one of the questions has the matching language. Right? It's all about your ability to match and pick synonym language, and that's what we're doing here. Okay? So the better you're able to do that, the more successful you're going to be when doing it, when doing these types of questions. This one is coming from the Cambridge Official Practice Test 8. This is from test number 7, and it's reading passage 2. And it's the one that's dealing with, let's see, fatal attraction. All right, fatal attraction. You know, one good thing that I find when you guys are going to be studying for the IELTS exam for reading comprehension, you're actually going to become a lot smarter, because they have reading passage topics about so many different things. So one benefit from doing the IELTS exam is that you're going to get a lot more just general knowledge about a lot of different topics that you probably wouldn't normally read about. As you know, we don't have to read the passage first. We don't have to read the topics or topic sentences or scan through or anything like that. Sorry, skim or scan through the passage. We go directly to the question. For a matching question, it's going to be easy. For this one, let's see, it starts off, we have a fill the blank question. And if you're doing the exam, you can start with the fill the blank question first. But again, if you have a matching question, it might be good maybe sometimes to start with your matching question also, just because those words in the box are most of the time going to be some type of proper noun, and they're going to be easy to find. They're going to be much easier to find, much easier to find. Sometimes I've seen this actually on some of the older tests where they actually have it reversed, where like these words in the box are actually the questions. Like number 19 would say Venus flytrap, number 20 would say bladderwort, and number 21 would say Drosera sundew. And then they have the sentences inside the box. So I've seen it reverse. It's very rare that it happens that way, but I've seen it happen that way where they have it reversed. But the strategy doesn't change. Instead of, you would still look at those proper nouns and find them and read them and then find the match. So don't worry about if they have it switched the other way around in terms of the style. Okay. Sometimes they like to switch the style around to mess with you or give you something that maybe you haven't looked at before. But this one is going to be really straightforward, because we can find these words in the box really easy. As you see, we have 4 questions. We have five things in the box. So one of them is definitely not going to be used. We can only use each letter once. The reason why is there are no directions. For you to be able to use a letter more than once, you have to have directions that say you can use a letter more than once. All right, so always be aware of that. If you can use a letter more than once, there will be directions that say you can use a letter more than once. So it's very important to be aware of that so that you don't make simple mistakes and get things wrong, okay? Now, let's go ahead and find, all right, number 19 says something about digesting insects and creatures. Number 20 says something about a slippery substance. I would circle these as keywords. 21 says something about creating an empty space and insects being sucked. Those are my keywords. And 22 is going to be something about a sticky substance. So I would circle those keywords in the questions, because then when I read the sentences for these different words in the box, it might make it easier for me to answer it faster. Okay? You get it? All right, let's go find Venus flytrap. All right, I see Venus flytrap right there in the right here, very first one. Okay, there's bladderwort right there. There's Drosera right there. All right, so actually, it looks like this one. It looks like this one is lining up. It looks like it's lining up. Yep. And here we have something about Venus flytrap again. Venus flytrap, Drosera sundrew. So we have them appear a couple of different times. And let's look back again. What were some of our other ones we had to look at? Raffles. Oh, the pitcher plants. All right, we also had something about the pitcher plants. Okay, and there we have with the pitcher, something about the pitcher plants right there. There's something about the raffle pitcher plant right there. All right, so we have the raffle, and then the other one was the purple pitcher plant. Right, that was for the raffle pitcher plant. And there's the purple pitcher plant. So yeah, these are going in order. These are going in order. All right, these are definitely going in order. So I saw that the Venus flytrap and the Drosera appear more than once. I mean, the Venus flytrap and the Drosera appear more than once. So I would probably do the bladderwort and the raffle and the purple pitcher. I would probably do those first because I only need to read one sentence and see if they fit, see if they match up. So those are the ones that I would do probably first. All right, so let's have a look first and read about the bladderwort first. The bladderwort has an equally sophisticated way, excuse me, the bladderwort has, I'm in paragraph B, everybody. The bladderwort has an equally sophisticated way of setting its underwater trap. It pumps water out of a tiny bag-like bladders, making a vacuum inside. When small creatures swim past, they bend the hairs on the bladder, causing a flap to open. The low pressure sucks water in, carrying the animal along with it. Okay? So it sets some kind of trap using water where it uses pressure to suck the animal in. Okay? So let's see if that is a match for any of our answer choices. All right. It uses other creatures to help it digest. Nope. Nothing about that. Slippery substance. Nope. Ah, here it is right here, 21. It creates an empty space into which insects are sucked. Yep. Because we just read those sentences and it talked about insects being sucked in. Okay. It talked about insects being sucked in. If you want, go ahead and rewind the tape and you can look back at the sentence again. But we looked at the sentence for the bladderwort right here, and we read these sentences and look at its methodology of what it's doing, and it talks about it using pressure to suck water in and carry the animal along with it. It said it makes a vacuum, and a vacuum is a synonym for empty space. Okay, so that means that on our answer sheet we would mark number 21 as being B for bladderwort. All right, now let's look at the raffle pitcher plant. Like I said, I'm doing those first because they appear more. I see them appearing once. All right, here's a raffle right here. The raffle pitcher plant, right here in paragraph B at the end, where you see the small little hand. The raffle pitcher plant from the jungles of Borneo produce nectar that both lures insects and forms a slick surface, which they can't get a grip. Insects that land on the rim slide on the liquid and tumble in. Okay, we know that's a match. We saw that one already, and that's why it's good sometimes to go ahead and select the key words. Right here, 21 is the answer. It says slippery surface, and when we just read that sentence, it talked about when we just read that sentence. Okay, for the raffle plant, it talked about it forms a slick surface. It says it right there, right? It says it forms a slick surface. So where it talked about it forming a slick surface, right? That's right here. It's talked about, it forms a slick surface. Okay, and so when that's why we picked that as our answer choice. Now let's look at where it talks about the purple. All right, but the purple pitcher plant. I'm in paragraph C, second sentence. But the purple pitcher plant, which lives in bogs and infertile sandy soils in North America, enlists other organisms to process its food. Okay, so again we see this answer also. It says the purple pitcher plant enlists other organisms to process its food. So it uses other organisms, like other animals. That's what an animal is, an organism. It enlists other organisms to process its food. Could be animal, could be something else, bacteria, I guess possible when it talks about organism. All right, so that would be right here, 19. It uses other creatures, synonym for organism, to help it digest insects. Digest is a synonym for processing its food. So the correct answer for number 19 is E, purple pitcher plant. All right, and then we just have one more to go find. Something talking about a sticky substance. Something talking about a sticky substance. So let's look at the Drosera plant. Now it's either going to be the Drosera plant or the Venus flytrap that talks about a sticky substance. So that's all we're looking for. All right, the Drosera, I'm in paragraph B, everybody. Paragraph B, right here where you see the hand on the screen. Right there, that little hand that's moving. The Drosera sundew, meanwhile, has a thick, sweet liquid oozing from its leaves, which first attracts insects, then holds them fast before the leaves snap shut. The Drosera sundew, meanwhile, has a thick, sweet liquid oozing from its leaves, which first attracts insects, then holds them fast before the leaves snap shut. Right, where it talks about holds is a sweet liquid oozing from its leaves. All right, and holds them fast. That means they get stuck. That's our synonym right there. When it says it holds them fast, that means they get stuck there. They can't move. All right. So the correct answer for our sentence is talking about produces a sticky substance is the Drosera. So number 22 would be C. So our correct answers here was number 19 was E, number 20 was D, number 21 was B, and number 22 was C. All right, so again, that's how we do our matching question. Thanks a lot, everyone, and I hope you now understand how to do a matching question. Talk to you soon. Now that we have completed the previous question analysis, it's time for us to go ahead and move on to another question strategy. Let's take a look at doing a table. How do we handle the table question for the IELTS reading exam? Now, the table question is something you'll see on the academic exam or the general exam, both of them. In fact, all of these question types are eligible to be presented on the general or the academic test. So, a table question looks exactly like that. On the academic test, it'll have more boxes, more complicated vocabulary. On the general test, it'll have maybe less boxes and more simple vocabulary. But the strategy doesn't change. The strategy is exactly the same. So this is basically a fill-the-blank question, except the questions are located on the table. It has the same scanning requirement as a fill-the-blank question, where you have to look at the sentences in the box and then scan the passage and find that matching sentence, read it, and then select the word that goes on the blank line. And guaranteeing your accuracy in doing this by focusing on the language that's before and after the blank line. Of course, you have to focus on synonym language, especially when you're dealing with the words that are before and after the blank line, because that's how they try to make it difficult sometimes. So with a table question, in terms of just some strategic information, it's possible that it might not go in order, but it's really easy to do. And sometimes that's because on a table, you might have two questions that are right next to each other. And it's possible in the paragraph, they might be because they're worded differently in the paragraph, number 5 might come before number 4. It's a possibility, but it's a really easy question to do. Typically, you're going to see this question in section 1. Sometimes you'll see it in section 3, but normally it's going to be in sections 1 or 2. It's a good question to do first because, like I said, it's pretty easy and straightforward to do. And you need to focus on the language that is before and after the blank line, because that's going to connect to the answer choice. So a table question typically looks like this, right? We have number 1 and 2 here. Actually, this one has, I think, a 3, a 4, and a 5, but it's too big. So we're just looking at numbers 1 and 2 here. But this is what it looks like on a table. So for number 1, it says, observing the blank of Russian English bilingual people when asked to select certain objects. Right? So when we're looking at it, okay, so it says for bilingual people, I'm reading right here in paragraph B. For bilingual people, this activation is not limited to a single language. Auditory input activates corresponding words regardless of the language to which they belong. Some of the most compelling evidence for this phenomenon, called language coactivation, comes from studying eye movements. So here's an example of what I was talking about, right? Where numbers 1 and 2 are reversed. So number 2 is language coactivation. Bilingual people engage both languages simultaneously, a mechanism known as. Compelling evidence for this phenomenon known as. Language coactivation is number 2, but you see in the paragraph, it comes first. Comes from studying. Studying is synonym for what? Observing. So number 1 is eye movements. But you see how in the table, they have eye movements first, language coactivation second. But because of the wording in the body paragraph, we see number 2 first and then number 1. This is what I'm talking about in terms of it possibly going out of order. Okay? And here is another example, okay, of a table. Before 1700, by the middle of the 18th century, early 19th century.
Okay? And so for before 1700, we don't have anything. Everything is there. So before 1700 is really just a marker. Okay? Now, by the middle of the 18th century, collection of blank and games. Really straightforward. So, number one is right here. It's contents. Its contents, let's see, in Britain, a London merchant named Thomas Borham produced Cajanus, the Swedish giant, in 1742, while the more famous John Newbery published A Little Pretty Pocketbook in 1744. Its contents, rhymes, stories, children's games. So number one, our answer would be rhymes, stories, right? That fits within the word limit here. Okay? And then Little Pretty Pocketbook, we see that right here. Now, in terms of the rest of it, it says, let's see. In many ways anticipated the similar Lucky Dip contents of children's annuals this century. That's not the sentence. Here it is. It is a tribute to Newbery's flair that he hit upon a winning formula quite so quickly to be pirated almost immediately in America, right? So it was pirated to America. And remember, we're talking about the middle of the 18th century. So don't come telling me something about how do we know it's not digitally by internet or email. If it was pirated to America, that means it was brought there physically, right? It was exported there physically. That's the only way that you can do it in the 18th century. All right? So the moral, let's see, and then we get down to numbers 3 and 4. Number 3 is really straightforward because if for number 3, it says early 19th century interest in folklore, growing interest in folklore. And then for number 4, nursery rhymes, and that's really straightforward. We're dealing with both nursery rhymes and a collection of fairy stories. So number 4 is fairy stories. So a table question is really, really straightforward. Really, really straightforward. I think with a table question, you can really move through it really quickly and save yourself some time and get a lot correct. Because remember, that's your goal. Your goal is get as many correct as possible. I don't know why sometimes students make the mistake of taking 5 minutes for one question and then destroying their score because they don't have any time to do what would be or could be easier questions. Now, coming up next, we're going to do a full passage application for a table question that involves the scanning process and the answer application. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great having you. I hope you're learning a lot, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, everyone. So now we're going to take a look at a table question and how to do a table question. The table question is basically a fill-the-blank question. You've just watched the video going over the strategy for a table question, but I will go ahead and repeat it for you. It's basically a fill-the-blank question. The table will always look something like this right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 questions here. Normally a table question goes in order, but just like you may have heard if you watched the other video with the diagram, it's possible that if 2 and 3 are in the same sentence or right next to each other, that you might find the answer for number 3 before you find the answer for number 2. So it is possible for a table question to not go in order. It's possible, but the vast majority of the time that's not going to happen. All right, so when we're looking at this one here for the table question, we treat it like a fill-the-blank question. We have to fill in. Number 1 is one method. Number 2 is another method, ribbon. The second method right here, ribbon. So what I would probably do is I would probably start with the second one first, because the word ribbon is going to be easy to find. It's a type of method, because it says right here, early methods of producing flat glass. Early methods of producing flat glass. So I'm going to look for ribbon, and then I'm looking for something that says could produce glass sheets of varying. So the answer for number 4 will connect to the word varying. Varying means like different, like varying sizes, right? And number 5, it says the glass was blank. All right, and then we also have 20% of the glass rubbed away. Machines were expensive. So number 5 most likely is going to come before this language of 20%, but 20% is going to be easy to find, right? That's going to be easy to find. All right, so let's take a look, see if we can find the word ribbon. Start at the very beginning. We see they're starting off with Mesopotamia and the Egyptians, so they're starting off really early. Oh, wow. Well, as we're scanning, we actually see number 1 right here. It says the first successful method for making clear flat glass involves spinning. Okay. So that's actually our answer for number 1 right here, the spinning method. Right? That's the first method. The first method is spinning. Early methods of producing flat glass. First method is spinning. Okay. All right, so I'll go to number 2. The glass remained. All right, see what it says. I'm right here in the first paragraph, everyone. I'm in the third sentence where it says the first successful method. Right here where you see that little hand on the screen. Right, always follow the little hand. The first method for making clear flat glass involves spinning. All right, our next sentence says this method was very effective as the glass had not touched any surface between being soft and becoming hard, so it stayed perfectly unblemished with a fire finished. This method was very effective as the glass had not touched any surfaces between being soft and becoming hard, so it stayed perfectly unblemished. All right, so our answer for number 2 is unblemished, right? Because the word remained. The word remained right here. You see. Remember, I told you with fill the blank questions, pay attention to the word before the blank line. When we're looking for number 2, we're looking for a word that means the same as remained. Because if we could find the word that means the same as remained, we'll know what the answer is for number 2. So right here in the paragraph, we see the word stayed. Right? Stayed is a synonym for remain. Right? So stayed, perfectly unblemished. Remained, perfectly unblemished. So our answer is unblemished. 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 I could write perfectly unblemished because it says I could write 2 words. Right? It says I could write 2 words. So I could write perfectly unblemished, but you don't have to write that adverb. You can just write the word you can just write unblemished. And finally, we're looking for something that comes after slow. So it's slow and then something else. You see these 2 periods right here, that little period right there and that little period right here. Look at the hand. The period, the dot or marker in front of the word slow. That means these 2 things are separate. It's slow, and then basically it's like and then number 3 is also something else. All right, so here's our synonym. It says, last sentence, however, the process took a long time. Long time is synonym for slow. Long time is synonym for slow. Was slow and, there's our and, labor intensive. So the answer for the next one is labor intensive. Right there, labor intensive. I'm in the last sentence, everyone. We see it right there, labor intensive. Labor intensive. However, the process took a long time and was labor intensive. That's our answer. And long time is synonym for slow. So you're seeing as we're going through these examples, how important it is to understand synonym language. That's really, really important. You have to understand it. All right, so let's keep moving down. We know the next part of the table deals with the word ribbon. Here it is right here. Ribbon. Right, here it is right here. The first continuous, now remember, if you don't remember, some of you guys have good memory, some of you don't. There's the word ribbon, and for number 4, it says could produce glass sheets of varying. So for number 4, I'm looking for a word. I'm looking for a word that means the same as varying, right? Varying. If I find the word that means the same as varying, then I'll know the word, that I know the answer for number 4 automatically because it's connected. All right, so the first continuous ribbon process involves squeezing molten glass through 2 hot rollers, similar to an old mangle. No word that means the same as varying yet. This allowed glass of virtually any thickness. There's our answer right there. Any, the word any, is similar to the word varying. Any means like it could be anything. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, any, right? Any is synonym for varying. So our correct answer here is thickness. This allowed glass of virtually any thickness. This allowed glass of varying thickness. Virtually any is the same thing as saying varying, okay? So the answer is thickness, Thickness, thickness. And number 5, then we have nonstop process. And number 5, the glass was blank. 20% of glass rubbed away. All right. What was the glass? Should come before 20%. There's 20%. There's nonstop. Okay. So it has to be in between there. But the rollers will leave both sides of the glass marked. Oh, so the glass was marked. It will leave both sides of the glass marked. And these would need to be ground and polished. So the glass was marked. Marked. There's the answer right there. M-A-R-K-E-D. Marked. All right, so you see for this one, it went in order. Up here in this first paragraph, we had the information for the first one, the spinning process. And then in the next paragraph, we have the information for the ribbon process. So it went in order. And like I told you, for the most part, that's what it's going to do, except for sometimes we have an exception. All right? So that's our first look at the example for a table question. All right. Talk to you soon.
Hello there. It's time to get into another question strategy. And this time, everybody, we are going to take the time to analyze the diagram. On the IELTS reading test, every now and then, not every time, but every now and then they'll throw in a diagram. And so it's just important for you to have a general understanding of how that works. Now, you might see a diagram on the general test. You might see a diagram on the academic test. Same strategy, the exact same. So a diagram question might look like what you see on the right-hand side. Right? They have a diagram of how they collect ants. And you have all these blank lines you have to finish or really complete. And you have to be able to look at a diagram. And really, this is how they're testing your English, right? You have to be able to look at that picture, you have to be able to look at what they're talking about for number 37 and looking at it and saying, well, what is the shape of that? And then recognizing the shape of that, right? The roof, the angled roof. You're looking at this and being able to see that language in a paragraph and know that's what they're talking about, right? Or looking at number 40 on the bottom there. And then when you're looking at number 40 on the bottom down here, being able to know that that looks like some type of pan, right? So that's how they're testing your English. Being able to look at a diagram and recognizing the English words for these different things. Now, there is a scanning requirement, and normally for a diagram question, the scanning requirement involves your being able to find the paragraph where they are describing the diagram. There's always going to be one paragraph, possibly two, where they are describing what the diagram looks like. Okay? And then, of course, you may have to work on synonym language. It depends if there are words before and after the blank line, right? But a diagram question is basically a fill-the-blank question. That's what it is. You have to fill these different blank lines by looking at how they describe the diagram in a paragraph, and then recognizing these different parts on the diagram in terms of what the meaning is in English. So with a diagram question, in terms of the question strategy, of course you have to identify the key words on the diagram if it has words. So for example, for this one you have the word metal, you have the word covered with, you have the word content. That's really important language, because that language is going to connect to the answer choices. Of course, on a diagram, you want to choose the part of the diagram that's easiest to find the answer for first. In terms of the scanning part, like I said, normally it doesn't involve a lot of scanning, because they're going to describe the diagram normally in just one paragraph, two maximum. And then we apply our answer strategy, right? Recognizing the part of the diagram they're referring to and knowing what that's called in English. They're going to give you the answer in the paragraph. You don't have to come up with the answer from your own head. So let's look at this example right here in terms of a diagram. With this one, now with a diagram, also keep in mind with a diagram, it may not go in order. It may not go in order. And this one can give you evidence of that. When we look at this one here, we can see how in the paragraph, it says the carbolic smoke ball was a hollow, right, rubber ball. So here they're pointing to the fact that it's hollow. So the answer for number 8 is going to be rubber ball, right? 5 centimeters across with a nozzle, right? So you're supposed to know that this part of this shape in English is called a nozzle. It's called a nozzle. And then it says covered by gauze. You're supposed to know that this is gauze. Now, number 5 would have been the easiest one to find, because it says covered with. And here it says what? Covered by gauze, right? Covered by gauze. So if you find number 5 first, and you find that that's gauze, you know number 5 and number 6 have to be close together. And then number 7 is showing you what's on the inside. That's why they have it cut out like this. It's showing you what's on the inside. So when you're looking at the language of the paragraph, you're looking for what they're saying on the inside. It says inside was powder. So if you look at it, question 8 in the paragraph, we saw question 8, then we saw question 6, then we saw question 5, then question 7. So it wasn't going in exact order, and that can happen when answer choices are bunched up together, okay? Now in this diagram, we're looking at another diagram. And when I have a diagram and it has a title, like how the 1670 lever-based device worked. I'm going to find that very easily because of the date. Very easily because of the date. And then it's just a matter of filling in what's on the blank line. So it says it was called the anchor escapement, right? Or number 9 would be escapement anchor. But they're giving me a word right there, resembling. So you might say, well, where's the word resembling? Keep reading this sentence, and it says shaped like. So shaped like is a synonym for resemble. So ship's anchor. So again, I would put anchor. Or because here for this one, you were able to put 2 words, you could put ship's anchor. All right. And then for the next one, the motion of a pendulum rocks this device so that it catches and then releases each. Answer is tooth. Right. It catches and releases. So they're talking about right here. Right. It's catching and releasing. Catching and releasing. What is it catching and releasing? It's catching and releasing from each tooth of the number 10 escape wheel. So here you see you find number 11 before you find number 10. Right? Number 11, we're talking about a circular motion. You should be able to identify that is a wheel. And then for number 12 and 13, right, we're right here. And I know 12 and 13 are connected together because it has a blank which beats each. Moreover, this invention allowed the use of a long pendulum which could beat once a second. Right? Which could beat once a is synonym for which beats each. Each is synonym for a. That means number 13 is second. And what's before that is long pendulum. Right? Now, if you just put pendulum, you will be marked correct also. Okay? All right, this one is a little bit more difficult to read. I'm sorry about that. I couldn't make it more clear. So I'm going to read it to you. Traditional roller coasters lifting force depends on a long line of blank. For climbing up, which is connected firmly to a blank shaped track. There are both blank on the top and underneath the heel, and it is powered by a blank line when it takes a turn. So first I'm looking for the traditional roller coaster's lifting force. And here it is right here. The traditional lifting mechanism is a long length of chain. Right, a long line, a long length, answers chain. The chain is fastened in a loop. Fastened is synonym for connected firmly to. Connected firmly to is synonym for fastened. That means the answer is loop. And then number 3, which is wound around, that's tricky to say, huh? Which is wound around a gear at the top of the heel and another one at the bottom of the heel. So here we have, there are both gears. Right now, if you wrote gears, and here's a situation, this one is interesting. Here's a situation that if you wrote the word directly from the passage, gear, it will be correct. But grammatically on the blank line, you can put gears. There are both gears on the top and underneath. So this is one of those situations where when you look at the answer key, you would see the word gear and the word gears as both acceptable. Because the way the grammar is written in the passage, the word gear is singular. But the way the grammar is written on the answer in the question, the word gear would be plural. They would accept, in that situation, they would accept the singular and the plural. And I get that kind of question by students all the time. And that's what I mean when I say it depends on the grammar structure of the question. Okay? And then it's powered by, is turned by, which is synonym for powered by, turned by a simple motor. So with a diagram, it's like any other fill the blank question. You're paying attention to the language before the blank line. All right, so coming up next, I'm going to give you some examples using a real passage in terms of being able to explain the full passage application with scanning and the answer application. So thank you very much for joining me and have a great day. I'll talk to you later.